Hey guys, what's going on? So today we are going over the Yakshas. I know I'm a little bit late on that, but you know, like they say, better late than never. I was noticing Yaksha and SURA actually look very much alike, and I was asking in an earlier video if someone's going to read all of the lore and try and see if there's any connection there, and I think it's the water one. We're actually doing the review, don't worry, I just want to check this real quick. Yeah, here it is. It was the water one. Thanks to that guy, sorry I forgot, and if no one's interested in this, I'll put like a timer there to tell you when the actual review starts, but I want to read this. My first loss in battle was to a girl with highly refined technique and who specialized in kicks. I knew I would someday lose to someone, but that didn't make it any easier when it happened. After the battle, she approached me. "You're pretty strong there, ain't ya?" Really kept me on my toes. I don't mean to be sticking my nose where it don't belong, but you fought like you was in a hurry or some such. Okay, why is she talking like that? Gotta relax your shoulders, you hear? It's like a southerner. Maybe I should read. No, I'm not going to redo it. She turned around and walked away as soon as she finished speaking, all while I stared at her and gritted my teeth. What does she know? With her attitude, she'll never make it to the top. I swore to myself that someday I'd make her eat her words. And then if we go over to the Evo 2 Yaksha, it says, "That guy back there, yeah, he was strong, but he froze up. He was being too serious, if you ask me. Rookie mistake. There's no way I'd lose to a kid like him. You gotta relax. That's when you do your best. I'm sure that kid'll be angry about losing to me for a while, but at least it'll give him some time to cool off." They also have a little story here for Evo 3. "I stood up. I could never forgive myself for losing to someone so sloppy and careless in her words. I devoted myself to training until my fists broke and my feet cracked. My master kept watch from a distance but never interfered, for which I was thankful. He must have understood what I was going through. All that went through my mind was that I must be the best, but when I thought of the moment I would face off in the league against that girl again, what I felt was not anger nor hate, but something different entirely. Uh-oh." And the Evo 3 Yaksha, "Oh, are you that guy from before? Holy smokes, what have you been eating? You're a lot bigger now, and fit. And are these really your muscles? They feel like rocks. I could probably kick you and you wouldn't even feel it. Wait, why is your face all red? You feeling okay?" And he fainted. Judge. Well, I guess that's it for this story. I'm going to quickly check the other elements to make sure we're not missing anything. Doesn't seem like there's any other weird hidden lores there. I don't know even why I checked. So, the review is officially starting now. We're going to be checking out the fire one first. As always, I already kind of like her because of the attack down 80% 2-turn. That's a pretty good attack down. We are very much lacking on attack down units, so I would already say she's a pretty good Astromon. The 5-star stun would be okay in Astromon League. It's only 60% chance, so it's not too high. But she makes up for it with the high chance attack down, so good in the Titan, I would say. She'd be really good there. Also probably works in something like Dragon Dungeon, because attack down, the dragons deal so much damage, so attack down can be very useful there. Gym wise, let's see, she is a defender and I would gym her as such. She is a pure debuffer, so her role definitely isn't more dealing damage, it's more surviving and getting those debuffs off and or stun. I heard you get the most effective HP with HP defense, but I'm not too sure if that includes defenders, which have a higher natural defense and will benefit more from defense percent gyms. And you know, having more HP does mean she will be harder to heal if there is a healer in place. So me personally, I would probably go defense HP instead of HP defense, just because while she may be more survivable with 2 HP and 1 defense, I think she'll definitely be survivable enough with defense HP, and she'll be easier to heal. So that's just my thoughts on that. Feel free to do whatever you want. This is just my preference, my opinions, whatever. But anyway, we're moving on to the water one. Looks like a crit rate. Astromon, very much like, Wood Genie? I don't know how to pronounce it, leave me alone. Like, yeah, she also had 20% crit rate on both skills. It's honestly not that great of a skill, because when you get later on in the game, it's not too hard to reach 100% crit rate with just a crit gem and a couple decent substats. So to me, it kind of feels like a waste of skills. On the other hand, you might be able to get up to 100% with like the intuition set and a few really good substats, and so you don't actually need a crit rate gem. That's definitely something to consider also, but that's definitely still for the higher tier players, I would say. Filling up up that last 50% crit rate with just substats, because that's what you need to do. You get 20 from her skills, 20 from the intuition set bonus, and 10 naturally. So 50% from 3 gems on substats is kind of hard for most players, but I think it is doable. She's an attacker, her stats say so also. For the higher tier players, I would recommend not going for a crit gem and trying to get your crit rate from other places. It doesn't necessarily need to be at 100% crit rate, but it would be for the best. I would recommend going attack, HP. You always want at least a little bit of survivability in there. There are only a couple units I go full glass on, and even those I'm definitely considering taking away an attack gem in place of an HP or a defense, because in harder stuff, they're dying very fast. For lower level players, I would probably recommend still going for a crit rate gem, and maybe even the intuition set or the ruin set. Ruin set would give you the most damage, and it still shouldn't be too hard to get that crit rate high enough to be usable. But yeah, that's just what I recommend for her. Honestly, don't like her skill set very much. But yeah, whatever. We're going to be moving on to the Wood Yaksha now, checking out her skill set. She seems to be a pure debuffer as well. Critical hits, 100% chance to sleep, and we got 60% thirst, 30% for 1 turn. Honestly, not looking all that interesting. Purely an Astromon League unit, in my opinion, with sleep. Sleep is actually okay when you're manually controlling your units. This is another reason why I call it a purely Astromon League unit, because it can act like a stun as long as you just don't hit them again. Thirst is also okay, but the chance is quite low, and it is only for 1 turn. Is 30% though, so it's a bit higher than some of the other thirsts. She is also an attacker and a pure debuffer, so that's a little bit weird. I would probably give her 1 attack gem. I would probably actually go more balanced with her, because it doesn't really seem like she's meant to be a full-on glass cannon attacker, because her skills don't really call for that. But yeah, she needs the crit rate for the sleep skill. It's kind of a waste since that's the only thing she really needs it for, since thirst is just flat 60% chance, crit or not. Anyway, how you would gem her in this case is a little bit harder. You kind of have to decide if you want her to be a better debuffer or a better damage dealer. Since she is an attacker, she'll naturally deal decent damage, but debuffers you typically want to make a little bit more defensive so they survive longer. What I would probably do is crit rate, attack, and defense on the ruin set, and if I can't get close to 100% crit rate, I would go on the intuition set. That would definitely make her more on the glassy side, but I like damage, that's just me. If you want a more tanky, then go crit rate, HP, defense. Probably on the intuition set if you're going like that though, because then the ruin set doesn't make too much sense when she doesn't have any more attack power from gems, and it would just be easier to get near 100%. So if you're going the more defensive route, getting a high crit rate is definitely more important, because then she really will just be a debuffer more and a damager less, so if she crits or not will be important. Light one also looking pretty good, a defense breaker, 70% chance, but for 3 turns. It's a little bit lower than the Fire Yaksha's attack down, but it is for 3 turns, and I believe hers was only for 2 turns, so I would definitely trade 10% less chance for a whole nother turn. Definitely when I'm thinking about like Titans and stuff, because it can definitely help when it's 3 turns, and she also has the Predator 5-star, which is always good. Straight damage buff, nothing to say there, universally useful, all good, all good. She would probably be my favorite if we weren't lacking so many attack down units, but probably the Fire is still my favorite for the moment, just because good attack breakers are hard to get. So yeah, skills good, skills good. She is also an attacker type, looking at her Evo 3 stats. 2k attack. She is partial debuffer, but also part damage dealer, so I would probably more recommend the offensive route with this one. Unless you're planning on making her an important part of your Titan team, then I would give her maybe a little bit more survivability. But when it comes to attackers, I generally go with crit rate, attack, HP. For her, I would definitely go with the Ruin set, since she is a light type and will have 20% natural crit rate, so it should be a bit easier to get close to 100. And since she doesn't have any skills that rely on crit, it doesn't necessarily need to be 100. Just getting it close would be helpful, because you know you're giving your set bonus to crit damage, so if she doesn't crit, she's kind of wasting that. So in a sense, she does need crit rate, because that's kind of a skill, you know? It's a 40% crit damage that's almost hunter level skill. So when you think about it, yeah, you got to get that crit rate high. So now we're going to be moving on to the Dark Yaksha. She has a passive healer skill. At first I thought this was like Water Persephone's, but it's actually not. It says 10% of allies HP when attacking, so she'd be a pretty good passive healer in a very tanky team, because regardless of how much HP they have, she'll heal 10%. She's also a debuffer with silence. I really don't like silence. I don't really see the use of it. Thirst does just pretty much a better job all around. I don't really see the point of even having silence, to be honest. It is just a horrible skill. But perhaps the 3-star makes up for it. She will be using her active in like auto battle and stuff, so I'm not too sure. At least like with Water Persephone or so, her Petrify can be useful sometimes. I mean, sure, the silence can also on the mobs. Their actives can really hurt sometimes, but yeah, I just don't like it personally. Regardless, decent 3-star skill. I would gym her full defensively, HP defense. She is a balanced type, but she's a passive healer. She doesn't need to do damage. I mean, I guess there is another option since she does have a base of 100% crit damage. You could go the more offensive route, but it just seems like a waste. If she had a single target active like Dark Hunter, I would see maybe going crit rate defense, HP or something like that, give her some survivability and a crit rate gym, but she is an AoE, so even if she crits, that 100% crit damage isn't really going to do that much. So personally, like I said, I would just go full defensive. But yeah, I guess that'll do it for the Yaksha review. Are you guys building any at the moment? Have you summoned any? Which one are you going for? What's your favorite? Tell me all that good stuff down in the comments below. Also, make sure to drop a like if you did enjoy. I would really appreciate it. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.